Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Aloud Art. Today is another lovely day to read another lovely book aloud. The title of this book is The Little Tin Soldier. Once upon a time, there lived an old toy maker. Folk came from miles around to gaze in his shop window full of toys. And sometimes they would call in and buy presents for their children. One day, the old toy maker melted down a very large tin spoon. Carefully, he poured the hot metal into some special molds to make a set of tin soldiers. He filled up 20 of the molds, but on the 21st, he ran out of tin. So when the soldiers were turned out, 20 were exactly alike, but the very last soldier had one leg missing. With great skill, the old toy maker painted the soldiers. He gave them red tunics and blue trousers, and finished off their hats with gold braid. They looked splendid, standing stiffly to attention and saluting. Even the tin soldier with one leg stood up just as straight as the others, looking every bit as brave and dashing. The old man was pleased with his work, and it wasn't too long before someone saw the 21 tin soldiers in his window and bought them. The box full of soldiers were given to a small boy for his birthday. And when he lifted the lid, he was thrilled to bits. "Tin soldiers," he gasps. "Just what I've always wanted." The boy stood all his soldiers in a row in his nursery without even noticing that one of them had only one leg. The little tin soldier gazed around him at the other toys. The floor below was littered with teddy bears, clockwork toys, bricks and dolls, and a toy fort for the tin soldiers. But the best toy was a splendid cardboard castle. It had tall pillars either side of the door, and more windows than a tin soldier could count. On the steps of the cardboard castle stood a graceful ballerina doll. She was balanced perfectly on one leg with the other stretched behind her. It looked as if she had only one leg. "What a perfect wife she would make for me," sighed the little tin soldier as he gazed into her eyes. But the ballerina doll didn't even blink. She just stood there on one leg. "What a perfect wife she would make for me," sighed the little tin soldier as he gazed into her eyes. But the ballerina doll didn't even blink. She just stood there on one leg, staring back at the tin soldier. "I know that she is far too good for me," the tin soldier thought to himself. "But I must be very brave and look into her eyes until she speaks to me." "What a perfect wife she would make for me," sighed the little tin soldier as he gazed into her eyes. But the ballerina doll didn't even blink. She just stood there on one leg, standing back at the tin soldier. "I know that she is far too good for me," the tin soldier thought to himself. "But I must be very brave and look into her eyes until she speaks to me." At night, when all the people in the house were asleep, the toys came out to play. The dolls and teddies danced and played games. The clockwork mice held races against the cars. Even the tin soldiers, who were supposed to be on guard, joined in the fun. But the little tin soldier and the ballerina doll just remained perfectly still and stared at each other. Suddenly, one night, the clock in the nursery struck midnight. The jack-in-the-box flew open, and a bad-tempered goblin flew out. He pointed a honey finger at the tin soldier. "Stop staring at the ballerina, or it will be the worse for you," he snarled. Although the goblin gave the tin soldier a terrible fright, he bravely stood to attention and continued to gaze at the ballerina doll. Very early next morning, the little boy came to his nursery to play with his soldiers. He lined them up in a row on the window ledge. They ran off to have its breakfast. Without any warning, the little tin soldier was whisked through the air. He fell out of the open window and down into the street below. Who knows how it happened? It may have been just a gust of wind, or even that nasty goblin. No one will ever know. As the poor tin soldier lay upside down in the gutter, it began to pour with rain. Two little boys came running past, and one of them spotted the tin soldier. The other had made a paper boat, so they stood the soldier in the front and carefully launched it into the gutter. Swiftly, the boat sped along the water until it was swept into a drain beneath the street. The brave tin soldier showed no fear, even when the boat sailed out of the drain and into the river. Then it began to sink. All too soon, the water was up to the soldier's chest. The paper boat became so soggy that it just fell to pieces, and the tin soldier sank beneath the surface. Oh, what a brave tin soldier he was. He showed no fear at all, even when the biggest fish in the river swallowed him up. It was terribly dark and gloomy inside the fish's stomach. The brave tin soldier kept his spirits up by thinking about the lovely ballerina and how he must see her once more. One day, the great fish was caught with a rod and line and ended up on a kitchen table. As the cook cut open the fish with her very sharp knife, the brave tin soldier fell out onto the table. The startled cook picked him up and took him up to the nursery. Now it was the tin soldier's turn to be surprised. He found himself in the very same nursery with the very same toys, the dolls, the teddies, all his soldier friends, and best of all, his lovely ballerina doll. But neither of them said a word. That night, when all was quiet, the brave tin soldier slowly made his way to the cardboard castle. He was going to beg the ballerina to come away with him. As he reached her side, the jack-in-the-box lid flew open, and the goblin pushed the brave tin soldier backwards. How dreadful! The poor tin soldier fell straight into the fire. Then something very strange happened. The nursery door opened, and the sudden draught blew the ballerina doll into the arms of the tin soldier. The fire flared up, and both melted away together in the flames. Next morning, when the fire had cooled, the maid came to clear out the ashes. All she found was a little piece of tin in the shape of a heart. Oh, the end. Subscribe to my channel for more amazing books we'll read aloud together. See you next time. Bye-bye.